I want you to imagine right now a puppet which is attached to invisible strings. Now this puppet, this invisible string, it connects everything, whether it's its movement, its direction, its decisions, everything. Now what if I told you this puppet is you, being controlled by the invisible strings of endless scrolling, notifications, social media, algorithms, which these days seem to know us better than we do know ourselves, right? Sounds weird. But what if I told you that the decisions that you are taking, you are not the one who's making all these decisions, but instead, your decisions are being made from someone else. That could be technology, social media, these algorithms, etc. And this is not even the real interesting thing where you're gonna get shocked. The real interesting thing, the real kicker is that we are getting controlled and we don't even realize it. We are getting controlled in various ways. Technology is subtly changing the way we react, our emotions, our behavior, and even our thought processes and our beliefs. In fact, these days, technology has come to play such a prominent role in our lives. It is keeping us engaged and hooked to our screens more than anything we can imagine to. You keep on scrolling, you keep on seeing one reel over to the next, one comment over to the next, one post over to the next, until and unless you reach the point that you are finally like, that's the post I was looking for. Or, oh my god, that post that really made me feel that's funny, that's nice, and that cycle keeps on going like that. But have you ever imagined what happens when you break this cycle? This whole cycle of you being in this dopamine rush of scrolling and social media, what happens when this is suddenly broken? Let me share with you my own incident that happened with me. I happened to board a long haul flight once. It was supposed to be around 9 hours, and only for me to find out that there was no Wi-Fi on board. Well, initially the first 2 hours, they were nerve-wracking in a way. I felt so restless. My hands would continuously go over to my phone, continuously running to see what's next on social media, what's next on Instagram, YouTube, etc. Only to realize that it was all useless until I have access to internet. So initially, the first 2 hours, this was happening. I would keep on running out to my phone, but I couldn't do anything. And I felt irritated, and something was not right. But gradually, and interestingly, as gradually the time went by and the few hours passed by, I started to feel at ease with myself. I started to feel that, yes, my thoughts are becoming clearer. I am able to be more free and connecting with myself, who I am. And that's the moment when I started ideating. More ideas, more creativity, and I started to scribble it all down in my notebook. Well, this was happening at hour 4 or 5 of the flight. But by the end of the flight, when we landed, means another 4 or 5 hours later, finally I had outlined two projects in detail in my little notebook, which almost seemed impossible, considering that I had no phone, no technology to help me through, and considering it could be done in one go, that was my moment for me. And that was my wake up call to realize that we are so connected to technology and dependent on it that this connectivity is not just a habit anymore. It's a dependency now. And when you disconnect from this dependency, your mind can redirect itself to deep thinking, creativity, clarity, and you also regain your control back on your focus and concentration. That was my key learning in that. Now, when this incident happened, I realized that this is not just my story. It's not just me who is going through things like that and having that light bulb moment that I can actually survive and thrive with technology in a good way and in a balanced way. Or maybe without it if I detox myself for a bit. So it's not just for us as individuals, it's not limited to that. It's much bigger than that. Because today, technology is not just limited to one person, but it's for everyone. And everybody is getting impacted by it. But how far can technology go to? Not in terms of connecting us, but also impacting us. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar once suggested that humans can maintain about 150 meaningful and stable relationships. But what about it when we talk about today? Today, we have hundreds and thousands of friends and followers and people we connect to. Yet here we are facing loneliness and anxiety, which is at an all-time high today. We are drowning in connections. We have so many of them, plenty of them. Yet here we are striving for real and authentic connections. It's like physically you are here. Physically you are present with your friends or family, but mentally you are somewhere else. And when we talk about this takes me to a concept that technology is not just connecting us, but in some way or the other, it is connecting us to disconnect. And this disconnect is causing a kind of a discomfort within us, a discomfort within human relationships, which is making it harder for real relationships to sustain and thrive. And you must have noticed it also. Consider you go out with your friends or family or colleagues for a dinner outside at night, and at the end of that night, you realize that you haven't spoken much, you haven't interacted much, and that was not literally the meaning of socialization that you were looking forward to the dinner. But then you think about it. Why does this happen? Why did it happen that even though you guys were present together, but you did not interact to that level? I'll tell you why. Maybe because every few minutes someone checked their messages that, oh, maybe I got a message. Maybe someone checked their phone for notifications if they were getting any. Maybe someone was returning back to their calls that they got. Or maybe someone just commonly started scrolling mid-conversation because it has become so normal. But the worst part of all of it, that today we don't even realize it. In fact, in this dinner, it could be that nobody realized that, oh, that really happened. And this is not just limited to divided attention here. We are not just talking about that. But we are also talking about how technology is changing us in unexpected ways. It's changing the way we interact with others, we connect with others, and also seek for validation. As someone who is working in the field of cyberpsychology, studying the intersection of technology and psychology, I've come to realize this key realization that technology can amplify your greatest strengths, also your deepest potential or your deepest, darkest vulnerability. But it's up to you how you use technology. And this takes me to the topic of social media. Today, we view social media as a platform, something we use to connect, create, grow, or maybe learn. But when we talk about social media, we also see it as something that we control. We have the access to it. But what if I told you the reality is the complete opposite? You are not the one who is controlling social media, but social media is controlling you in some way or the other. What if? Now, it all sounds really haphazard and strange, but let me help you understand this with the help of this one question. How many of you have ever felt that you opened up your phone and it's an endless scrolling machine? You keep on scrolling one reel over the other, one post over another, one comment to the other, and you realize, I just cannot stop. It just keeps on showing me such good stuff or such interesting stuff that I have to be on it. How many of you have ever felt like that? Please raise your hands. I think a lot of you. I can't say almost all, but a lot of you. And this also goes to the realization you must have felt that while I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, it seems that social media knows what I want to see. It seems like social media shows me such relatable content that I feel, yes, that's my vibe, or that's interesting, that's funny, that's a reel I can send it to my friend. You must have thought that too. But again, the question arises, why does this happen? The answer lies in understanding this simple analogy. Consider social media as a casino machine where you keep on pulling the lever. You keep on pulling it until and unless waiting for you to land on a new and exciting post. You never know when you're going to land on it. So you keep on pulling the lever unexpectedly and you keep on doing it. Social media is just like that. You are waiting for the chances for you to get that post or reel that gives you that dopamine rush or makes you feel good. But while doing all of this, what we don't realize that how much of our time and energy is being compromised while doing this. We don't even realize that. Well, talking about social media, let's talk about social media platforms too. Because today the question isn't how technology is impacting us, but the question which is bigger is how technology has already impacted us in unexpected ways. So talking about social media platforms, they show us content that we like seeing, right? Because let me tell you one thing today. Your every like, your every comment, your every post, your every share to somebody else, all of this is being recorded by social media. All of this that you do through this social media studies you on what you like, what you don't like, what you like seeing, what is something that makes you, be on your phone, what keeps your attention, what shapes your decision, etc. And all of this information goes to the algorithm. Now, algorithm is a very smart system, or I could say a very intelligent system that is brilliant at predicting human behavior. So when that happens, in a way, algorithm is studying you and your human behavior in the digital sphere. It is studying what you like and what you don't, what is making you feel that, okay, this is interesting, what I can share with the other person. And after studying that, after analyzing that, it only shows you content that aligns with your beliefs, opinions, likes and dislikes. But guess what? When we keep on seeing this leads to an effect calling the echo chamber effect. Now, what's the echo chamber effect? In context to cyberpsychology, an echo chamber is an online environment which only shows an individual content that he likes and that aligns with his or her beliefs, opinions, and views. In a way, pre-existing views are being reinforced here. But when we keep on seeing things that only we like and we approve of and we agree, we limit our thoughts, we limit our views and our perspective. That becomes completely narrow. And as a result of this, we stop seeing other different views as diverse perspectives, and we start limiting ourselves to just the views we want to hear. And that is one of the major limitations of echo chamber. Now, when we have talked so much right now about social media, its issues, and how it's impacting us, it's affecting us, it's very important for us to actually deep dive into our own digital habits. Because if we really need to thrive in this digital space, if we want to come out of the trap of seeking validation, maintaining perfect profiles because of the pressure, or having the low self-esteem and low self-worth because of comparing ourselves with others online, if we need to come out of this trap, we need to understand our own digital habits. Now, what do I mean by understanding our own digital habits? It means deep diving into our own, venturing out into our own unknown habits of the digital world, what we do and what we don't. Now, it can be difficult and it can be tricky when you are trying to, I would say, improve your digital habits. But at the same time, if you do so, it helps you in the long run. Let me share with you a story of my friend who wanted to just, test it out and try it out. And as a result, she decided to take a 1 week off from her social media platforms and social media accounts. Now, at first, initially, it was highly difficult for her. And she underestimated the challenge. She thought, how difficult would it be, right? But it was. Initially, she felt restless. She used to feel that something is missing from her life because she was not checking on the social media platforms or the social media notifications, and she felt a sense of restlessness within her. But what she also felt during that time, among one of the other symptoms, was she used to feel that her phone is vibrating, even when it wasn't. It sounds ghostly, it sounds strange, but it is a real life phenomenon. And that, my friends, is called the phantom vibration syndrome, in which a person has a false perception that their phone or other technological device is ringing or vibrating even when it isn't. It's because the person is so habitual to it. Well, apart from this, she felt restless, she felt irritable, she was feeling that something is missing from her life, and she also felt a void in her life. But surprisingly, for me and for her, by the end of that week, she actually felt there was a change in her. Her thoughts became more clearer, she felt more present at the moment, and most importantly, what helped her highly was that she felt less anxious too. And that was one of the major things that she was facing before having this challenge. And one of the important realizations she had during this time, that how much of her time and energy was being consumed and stolen by checking these notifications and by mindless scrolling. Now, when I heard this whole experience and I heard from her, I had two major realizations from the lens of cyberpsychology, which revealed something very important about human behavior. Number one, we humans are creatures of habit, which means that we are so habitual these days to using our phones and social media that if we don't use it, we feel that something is missing, something is wrong. And secondly, the important realization was that we have become dependent on social media and we cannot stand alone. These days, it's very difficult to just be still and sit still without our phones. We feel so dependent on them. Now, in the end, I would just like to conclude by sharing with you an AIF framework to help you redefine your relationship with social media. A. Accountability. I. Intentionality. And F. Focus. So the next time you are using your phone, ask yourself, is this an urge? Is this a choice? Or is this my reflex? And I leave you with this question. Are you just another puppet who is again being controlled, its choices are being controlled by the invisible string of social media? Or are you really control of your choices? Thank you.